Hello everybody, Craig Birnbach here. Welcome to another edition of my video blog, Birnbach's Always Right. And yes, we're going to talk Cam Newton, but don't worry. I'm not going to try to convince you to love Cam Newton or hate Cam Newton. Let's be honest. At this point, you've already decided. Why? Because you've heard it on every sports radio show, every television show. You've argued with your friends, your parents, your wife, your husband. You have an opinion on Cam Newton. And that's kind of what I want to talk about. I want you to appreciate Cam Newton for the fact that he made you have an opinion, that he made you have an argument because he was interesting. In this day and age when we have so many athletes that are so scared to say anything controversial because it might hurt their brand, everything that Cam Newton says is controversial because that's kind of his brand, and that is awesome for those of us who find sports so interesting because Cam Newton makes sports more interesting. Look, I'll be honest. I love that Cam Newton dances after touchdowns. I love that he does the Superman and he daps and he's having fun. I also love that he says, look, if you don't want me to dance and dap and do the Superman, then keep me out of the end zone. I love that he does a commercial that says, yeah, too bad they don't make Band-Aids for hurt feelings. Then he goes, loses the Super Bowl, and acts like he needs a Band-Aid for his hurt feelings. Yes, he was wrong. He shouldn't have walked out of the postgame. He should have answered the questions. He didn't handle it well. But you know what? He doesn't care what you think. He doesn't care what I think. He only cares what he thinks. And that makes him actually interesting. A lot of people wanted to compare how Cam Newton reacted after he lost the Super Bowl this season to the Broncos to how Russell Wilson acted with the Seahawks after they lost to the Patriots. And look, there's no doubt Russell Wilson, he handled it better. He was polite. He gave credit to the Patriots. He handled all the questions perfectly. Everything he said was by the book because that's who Russell Wilson is. He's a great player, but he's a terrible interview because all he does is give you cliche after cliche after cliche. The most controversial thing about Russell Wilson is he often brings God into the equation with sports, which has some people trying to debate whether or not God actually cares about football, but really, that's not that great. That's not that interesting. But Cam Newton, everything he says is interesting. Look, Cam's only 26 years old. Maybe he'll mature more. Maybe eventually he'll become more like a Russell Wilson. Maybe he'll even get to where Peyton Manning is, who doesn't say anything controversial, but at least is funny at times. But at this point, let's appreciate Cam Newton for what he is. He's a very interesting football player that makes his post-game something that you want to hear, you want to know what he said, and then you want to go talk about it. Cam Newton is not a robot. I'll say it again. Cam Newton's not a robot, and that is awesome. And how do I know that? Well, that's simple. Birnbach's always right.